Hey there, bosses. Khouri from the Being Boss team here. I'm popping in to let you know about a new way for you to stay up to date in the world as a creative entrepreneur. Brood. Brood is a weekly email curated by the Being Boss team just for you. We share articles, podcasts, and resources from around the internet on the topics of mindset, money, and productivity to help you show up and do the work in your business. Learn more and sign up for free at beingboss.club/brood. That's beingboss.club/BREWED.
Being boss is owning who you are, knowing what you want, and actually making it happen. From the very beginning, that has been one of the core messages of Being Boss. It's a mantra for creatives who want to cultivate confidence, set goals, and earn success. But it's important for you to understand that these qualities of being a boss are intrinsically linked. You can't truly have one without the other. And to get it all rolling, you have to start at the beginning. You must own who you are. Welcome to Being Boss, a podcast for creatives, business owners, and entrepreneurs who want to take control of their work and live life on their own terms. I'm your host, Emily Thompson. And today I'm going back to the basics. I'm starting at the beginning, a place where I see creatives and business owners getting stuck all the time. From struggling to narrow in on what it is you want to create, to figuring out how you want to grow and scale your business, to getting clear on what it is that you're here to accomplish for yourself. It starts with you. You must own who you are. To help me dive into what you'll soon find is a very layered and deep topic, I invited my friend Michelle to join me, who you heard from recently in those 2-episode interviews between Kathleen and me on the past, present, and future of Being Boss. And just as her interviewing style was just what I was looking for in sharing the story of Kathleen and me with you, I also knew that she was exactly who I wanted to chat with when it came to sharing with you the importance of sharing your story, of owning who you are, and letting your story fuel your business. Michelle Khouri is the CEO and founder of Frequency Media, a first-of-its-kind company that seeks to democratize high-quality and intentional podcast production based in Atlanta, Georgia. Since opening for business in 2018, Frequency has worked with Coca-Cola, Apple, the Statue of Liberty, Ellis Island Foundation, Diane von Furstenberg, and many others. She's also the host of her own podcast, The Cultured Podcast, which feeds her obsession with arts and culture. You'll see here that we had a blast diving into this topic, and we did so live to members of the Being Boss Clubhouse, the second tier of the Being Boss community, and a monthly gathering we call Clubhouse Conversations, where our community of bosses got to not only watch this recording live, but take part in the conversation too, and in some cases, fill in the blanks. Now, just before we dive in, here's a message from our sponsor. Taking care of employees has never been more important. For years, Gusto's been helping more than 100,000 small business owners run payroll, offer benefits, onboard new employees, and more. They call it the People Platform. And it doesn't just look nice, it works. Your payroll taxes are filed, deductions are calculated, and your team gets paid. You can even offer health insurance and 401ks. Get 3 months free after your first payroll when you go to gusto.com/beingboss. That's gusto.com/beingboss. Welcome, Michelle.
Thank you. That was all accurate and true. So thank you.
Right? I mean, you sent it to me.
I know. It's, well, I'm right about myself.
Right? Right. Well, okay, perfect. So that's even what we want to be talking about here today. Yep. So I brought Michelle because of the work she does. She is an expert in the realm of sharing your story, which aligns with our theme this month, which is authenticity. Mm-hmm. Because to share your story, you have to know your story. Yes. And to share it, you also actually have to own your story. You have to own who you are. And that's what I really want to be diving into today. So with that, let's get going. Are you ready?
I'm so ready. This is super cool. I mean, everything you've hooked up here today is super cool.
It's going to be a blast.
Mm-hmm.
Let's hope it all continues to work.
Amen to that.
The bar just maintains a pretty low stature, right? You have to keep it low. But yes, this is going to be a ton of fun. So actually, before we even get started, I'd love for everyone in the chat, feel free to go ahead and say hey. And I'd like to know where you guys are sitting, right? And what it is you're sipping.
Ooh.
So sitting and sipping. Michelle, where are you at today?
I'm
the same place you are every day?
Yeah, same place I am every day, Pinky. I'm in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm so glad you got that reference.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sitting in my living room. So this is my living room. And I'm sipping water. Just trying to stay hydrated. You got to own who you are from a hydration level as well. You know what I mean?
You do. Mm-hmm. You do. Hydrate. Mm-hmm. Right. I'm sitting in my home office here today, also drinking some water.
Yeah. In a super cool glass. I love that glass.
They're very beefy.
Ooh, I love.
They're thick glass beefy. I love them. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. So drinking coffee like a fool. I love it.
Drinking coffee all day is my favorite hobby. I'm Colombian though. So I'm made of 40% coffee.
I love it. Okay, good. Thanks guys so much for sharing. It's good to, hi Kelly and Jenny. Wonderful. And Jill. Awesome. Okay, let's get started. Let's get the questions going. I'd like to hear from you. Why is it important to share your story? And I'd like to hear this through the lens of being a creative or a business owner or entrepreneur. Why is it important to share who you are and what it is that you're doing?
Well, I think I'm going to go deeper with this than a lot of people expect with this question. But it's really actually a fundamentally human thing to share our stories. And in fact, it fosters trust between us when we do share those stories. As many of us know, or many of us who know Scorpios know, just kidding, I kid. I love you guys. It's fine. Those who are more mysterious or who don't more readily share their stories, we tend to fill in the blanks with our own machinations, right? And that can be a dangerous game. And so knowing your story, accepting and embracing your story, and then being more open with that story, and in the same way that Brené Brown talks about vulnerability so often, is, I think, key to connection in general. And really, all any of us are doing fundamentally, no matter what our product, service, or endeavor is connecting with other people. And so when you boil it down to a very human level, when you're just fundamentally, I'm a human being with a story to tell. And in order to connect with this human being, I have to tell my story and also listen to theirs. I think that kind of shakes you out of the mechanics of, well, this is marketing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Not Kelly. Tara Street. I can't remember what it is that she said. She was on the podcast once and basically saying this exact same thing. Mm-hmm. Whenever or maybe it was actually even Kathleen, and Kathleen being Tara's sister, it makes sense that I would totally get them mixed up. But one of them said something to the effect of, once you're sharing your story, you stop selling.
Yes,
there's a little switch that happens where, and especially for creatives who usually struggle a lot with selling, mm-hmm. Whenever you can reframe it to just sharing your story, what it is that you're doing, why it is that you're doing it, which is more important even than what it is that you're doing, you're not selling anymore. You're just sharing. Yes. And that puts you in a place of feeling more in control of the conversation, feeling more comfortable with the conversation, and you actually probably getting more out of the conversation than if you were trying to sell.
100%. I think once you put it like that, I'm selling every day. When you own a business, particularly a business that any business really, but my business provides a service. I by the traditional definition of sales, am selling every single day. And yet I'm not a salesperson. What I am doing is telling the frequency story, or my story, via frequency every single day. And to be clear, I think to be clear on your purpose makes it super easy to share that story, because all of a sudden it's not just like I'm selling this to make money. I'm selling this because I want to heal, enlighten, and uplift the world through sound. And that has been my goal being in sound from day one. And so it's very easy because it's kind of like I'm preaching every day versus selling, right? I'm preaching the message that is the power of sound.
I think that's another powerful sort of mindset switch to make, and especially in something like you're selling sound. Let's talk about how like abstract that is.
How
right?
abstract and how tangible in like a very weird interaction between the two, right? It's like,
yeah. So you have to find other ways to sell than just selling it. And the most natural, authentic way of doing that is to preach or to share the story behind it and what it is that it does for others. So
yes,
that's good.
Yes,
that's good.
Exactly. Do you feel like you're selling constantly in your job? Because you actually have product and service.
Yeah. I don't think I do. So example of this. So we've started doing crystal parties at Almanac every Friday. We're doing a Zoom sort of like exclusive, and I'm air quoting here, exclusive private crystal parties or crystal sales, basically, where we're getting in there and we call them parties because they're a ton of fun. Like tons of people are doing IG sales of crystals where they're getting on and like, it's very like almost, auction style. It's almost very like
that's so cool.
It's kind of intense, and there's no like bidding necessarily, but like you got to claim that thing, and it's very fast moving. It's like this whole thing that kind of drives me a little bit nuts. So we were like at Almanac, how can we do this differently that feels a little more authentic to us and how it is that we want to show up and do this kind of work, and especially in the time of COVID when I can't like invite people in to see all the crystals, like what does this look like for us? And so we started doing these crystal parties where we're getting on Zoom. And we're showing them very similarly to how everyone else is doing it on Instagram. But we're doing it in a very storytelling kind of way, or like very educational way. So we're talking about where the crystals came from. We're talking about how they've been used in the past. Like we're being very educational. And because like the whole team is in there, it's me and David is there and our employee Mary is there. Like we're having this conversation, we're laughing, and there's like, we're all gasping because like the crystals come out or they sparkle just right. And we're like, oh, did you see that?
Yes.
Like it really just turns into a thing, and we're not selling anything. I mean, we've shown up, we're showing anything, but we're not vocally selling anything. We're sharing the stories of ourselves and our relationship and of the products that are being sold. We're not going like, oh, this is so unique and rare. If you don't buy it now, you're never going to see it again. Like there's none of that. There's none of that. We're just showing the thing. We're sharing a story, and people buy them because sharing is selling if you're sharing something worth buying, Yeah.
I mean, I think that's really well put. And it actually brings an example to my mind that we all get emails from people selling some kind of a service or a product. And I get a lot of these all the time, especially like when you're a small business owner, people reach out and they're like, I could help you enhance your follower count or whatever. And I had this one guy reach out and it was very salesy, and he emails me at my frequency email. And then he adds me on LinkedIn and messages me there that night. And then the next day he DMs me on Instagram through Frequency's account, DMs me through my personal account, emails me again the next day. And I finally responded to him and I was like, hey, dude, you got a response from me, but it's not the response you were looking for. This is not the way to sell something. This is the way to get blocked, which you now are. Fun fact, I didn't actually block him. He then responded to me again and was like, sorry, I was emailing you so much. I just so much believe. And then he goes again and tries to sell again. So now he's actually blocked because thank God he gave me the reminder to block him. That is sales versus story. That is, and it's also like, you're not sharing your story with someone by hunting them down. That's not an organic exchange of human storytelling, right? That is clearly that you feel targeted. And I think we've all felt those situations when someone's trying to blatantly sell us something and we feel uncomfortable immediately. Our guts tell us. Our guts know how to suss out when somebody is not being authentic with their sharing. And I think that's also authenticity. It's one of our values at Frequency, because sound in particular thrives off of authenticity. And if you're not going to be authentic on your podcast, in your audio property, whatever it is, people can suss it out immediately, because we are trained to do that on a physical level as human beings. So authenticity, knowing your story, and then sharing through that place of knowing, understanding, and authenticity. And that requires then owning it, right? So all of those dots start to be connected.
100%. Okay, let's talk about this owning piece, because I do think that this is something that bosses struggle with to a point. Like, everyone comes to us like with this idea of like, oh, I'm a creative, like I probably should be a doctor, or can I like start my own business, or like who's going to buy this thing from me? And like, but we're here because we know we're being called to do this work, whatever it is. But we have a problem with that, like owning it, of being like, I am a creative. I am going to start this business. I am going to sell this crazy thing that no one's ever thought of before. So let's talk about that owning of it. So you can share it. And maybe there's even like, you mentioned like this, like they're all connected. Maybe it even goes from one to the other. Where do you see those connections being made between like sharing it, like saying I'm doing this thing, and actually owning it?
Well, I don't think fundamentally you can share it from a place of authenticity unless you've done the work of owning it. And so, I think I can give you an example of in my own life to show you. But, we've talked about this extensively. Women are it is particularly hard for us as women to own our power. And to, what I preach from the rooftops is be as big as you are. And that is, now we've incorporated that into the messaging for Frequency, because that's actually essentially what we're doing, is encouraging people to be as big as they are and to allow themselves to take up the space in this world that they take up. And that was born of my own personal journey as this like large Amazonian woman with a giant personality and like a large projecting voice and big ass opinions and big ass ideas. And I was told from a very young age, especially in Colombian society, it's like, no. A lady is not heard from. She is seen and she is petite. And so you must shrink. You must just shrink yourself. And I do feel like a lot of us, whether we're women identifying or male identifying, understand what that feels like to shrink yourself. And so the first step is stop it. Be as big as you are. You deserve to take up room in this world, and your ideas deserve to take up room in this world. So step 1, I have an idea. Stop calling yourself crazy for it. Step 2, own that idea and believe in yourself the way that you fundamentally at your core believe that you can make that idea come to life in the broadest way. We are infinite beings on this planet. Infinite. We can make anything we want happen on this planet. Okay, cool. So now, number 1, I've allowed myself space and I have told myself I deserve it. Number 2, I have an idea. I'm going to stop bad mouthing it and I'm going to embrace it and say, what's the worst that can happen? Well, the worst that can happen is that I not pursue this idea and live in regret. Personally, that's my worst case scenario. Number 3, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it hard. I'm going to go after making this vision a reality. I'm going to put my whole heart and soul into it. By the time you get to a place where you are like, okay, I'm going to do it and I'm going to go hard. Oh, you are owning it. You have gotten into your owning graduation phase. And now you're going to not be able to do anything but shout about it from the rooftops, because you are so amped on yourself and you believe in yourself so much. And you know that the worst thing that could possibly happen is, in fact, not that you fail, but that you don't even do it, that you live your whole life saying, I would have done this if only I believed in myself. That is terrifying.
You do preach quite nicely, Michelle. I love it. You could preach any day.
Yes, Kelly.
Any day. I love this. So, okay, 2 things for you. One is that I love that your story, and this is the thing I really want to point out here, is that your story really does shape what you end up doing. Like your actual physical, like you grew up being told to be small, be quiet, all of these things. And here you are in your business telling people to go big. Let's use your voice to tell everyone exactly what it is that you're here to stand for. Which is why I think owning your story, like recognizing your story, really helps you evolve into that more powerful version of who you are and what it is that you want to do. And you can do it so much more effectively because you've overcome the thing that has brought you to where it is that you are. So high five on that. But also I want everyone to see that, And two, I'd love to hear from you though, how it is that you did that. Like, how did you go from being the little girl being told that she like can't say anything, you could only be seen, not heard, to being who you are now?
Thank you for that question, Emily, because, you know, I was laying in bed not 2 nights ago and I was replaying this other podcast I was on and that conversation. And I kept saying, I was just born who I am. But I skipped this whole chunk in the middle where I didn't know how to be the full expression of myself. So I was like, man, that was such a missed opportunity to like tell people that like I was born only knowing how to be who I am. But like the people who told me to be smaller succeeded for a long time. I was smaller energetically. I was a smaller presence. I was containing myself constantly. You know, I was in a relationship with a lovely man who was not compatible with me at all, but it kept me feeling safe in my containment zone. Intuition. Like, here's the thing why I say that I only know how to be who I am is because even when I was so contained and such a small version of myself, a shell of myself is how I really look back on it and see myself as, there was always this voice shouting at me, being like, this isn't it. This isn't it. This isn't it. This isn't it. You're going in the wrong direction. This isn't it. And I did everything in my power to ignore it. I mean, everything in my power. And I blamed myself. I said that I was self-sabotaging my life. No, it was my intuition. It was my higher self shouting at me, being like, okay, great. You've done this whole part of your journey. You've learned this lesson. Now it's time to like really be you. And so what I have done in my journey of the last 20 years has been to listen to that voice. And back then I wasn't as awake as I am now. So I didn't quite know what I was doing. All I knew was that something was dissonant. It didn't feel right. And thus I was going to make a decision that took me out of that situation and led me to something that maybe felt more right. And that meant that over those 10 to 15 years in particular with my career, I was making decisions that everybody was like, what the hell are you doing with your life, Michelle? And I had to trust myself so much that everyone around me who was like, you might be making a huge mistake, I could look at them and be like, I just really don't think I am. I didn't know. I could have been, but I did it anyway. And now, after years of meditative and spiritual practice, I'm like, oh, I was following my intuition. And that's why I think for us, like you and me, Emily, we preach this. And I'm like, y'all, take our mistakes and just know that your intuition is gold. Follow it.
Yeah.
And also, I'm so sorry, but my laptop is dying, so I have to get my charger.
Go get your charger. You're good.
My intuition is telling me that if I don't do this, my laptop will die. So hold on.
That's not your intuition. That's a beep. Not the same thing. Not the same thing. Hey, boss. Have you heard the news? Being Boss is hosting our second big virtual event, and this one is Bringing the Magic. The Guided by Intuition Gathering is a 3-day live event for bosses all across the globe to get together and connect with each other, as well as with your own inner wisdom so that you can take more aligned action within your business. Join me on October 8th through 10th for panels, workshops, live podcast recordings, and more with me and a group of boss experts, including my guest co-host, Kelly Knight, who's the owner of Modern Mystic Shop, Bridget Esselmont, the founder of Biddy Tarot, the internet's biggest tarot resource, serving over 5 million tarot lovers every year, and Mecca Woods, astrologer and author of Astrology for Happiness and Success, and more. Basically, it's 3 days that will live up to your wildest boss woo dreams with a focus on intuition and a heavy sprinkling of magic in business. Learn more and snag your seat by going to beingboss.club/gathering. I hope to see you there. Okay, I do want to touch on this intuition thing because you were ignoring it for a long time.
Yes.
And then one day you started listening. Like, what does your intuition feel like to you? Like, is it something in your body? Is it something that's repeated in your head? Like, what is it for you?
Well, I have a very visceral solar plexus feeling. So it's in my stomach. My stomach responds viscerally to energy, which really all of ours do, but I'm very connected to it. I also have celiac disease, which I think is an interesting connection in that my gut is overactive in such a way that it attacks itself if I eat gluten, for instance. But my gut, in a very physical way and in a figurative way, is very strong and present. So I do listen to that. So it's physically uncomfortable and painful for me to be around people who are harboring any kind of like negativity, trauma, things like that. And then the voices. Yeah, like not the voices. Yeah, all the voices.
Yes, tell me about those.
No, it's it's that voice in your head that's like not literally a voice, but rather just that itch. It's just that mental itch that's like, or yes, yes, yes. And after years of developing that through meditation, and that's a very active word for it, because like meditation, just the mere act of allowing, I consider meditation sort of like parting the Red Seas of your mind. And so it's not so much about, for me, my practice isn't so much about not thinking anything, but rather parting the seas of all of the like little frivolous racing thoughts so that the stuff really in the back that's buried, that really deserves the most attention, has the space to come forward. And for me, intuition are those that find their way forward, regardless of all the little thoughts.
Thank you for sharing that. And if anyone here, if you have access to the Clubhouse, in there we have the sessions from the Make Time to Shine, our conference from April. And I asked Michelle this because one of the exercises in there, we had a breakout session from Kelly Knight from Modern Mystic,
love Kelly,
right?
Yes.
Who did an exercise about sort of feeling in your body where your intuition manifests for you. And so if you are interested in that, there's a nice little exercise in there that will help you connect with where in your body you hear or feel your intuition. So
that's great. That's powerful. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
And not something that feeling your intuition is not something that a lot of people are in touch with. But I do find that people who feel best about their business, and that does not mean that these are the people who are most successful in business, because I know lots of successful people in business who are so out of touch with their intuition is no joke. No joke. But the people who feel best in their business are the people who are the most in touch with their intuition. They feel good about the moves that they're making, which actually brings up for me, you're talking about how it is that you sort of made your transition. For me, whenever I was in college, and I don't know where this started, there's like no point where I can recall like me having this thought for the first time or anything like that. But for me, what sort of helped me put me on that path was this thing that I literally repeat to myself all the time is I refuse to regret anything. Right? And so it's just something that I think about. And it's not so much that I'm going to do dumb stuff and then refuse to regret it. It's like, it's both proactive and reactive.
Yes.
You know, so I'm also thinking very hard about decisions as to whether or not this is going to be something that I regret doing or not doing.
Yes.
And then afterwards, let's say something does go horribly wrong or whatever, like I still refuse to regret it, whatever it may be. And so that's just something that came out. And I like, it's not like I had a weirdly, you know, traumatic childhood or any, just the normal stuff. I think that, you know, a lot of people deal with. I'm also told as a kid that like seen, not heard, like all those things for sure. But for me, the way I course corrected was this thing that I started repeating to myself of I refuse to regret anything.
That's beautiful. And I also think that when you're aligned with your values and you really understand what your values are and who you are as a person and what you're here on this planet to do, or even, I mean, that's a big one, right? That a lot of people are like, I don't friggin' know. I'm like, well, yeah, I guess fundamentally does anybody. But if you understand and feel a sense of purpose about something, these decisions become a lot easier to not regret because you are acting in accordance with your fundamental core, right? And then all of a sudden, even if things go wrong, you're like, well, I know that I did what was best according to my value systems and my morals and my ethics. And, you know, you could even see regret as like a karmic energy that returns to you if you're putting something out in the world that isn't quite aligned. Because that's a heavy feeling. And I just don't, I mean, you know, even people I've trusted who I might put the word betrayed, who have betrayed me in very recent times, like I can't regret trusting them because I did the absolute best thing in terms of putting out the right ripples in the world and also trying to place love into somebody who obviously wasn't ready to receive it, but that's on them, not me, you know, like that's it. So I love that's your mantra or one of your mantras because it's a powerful indicator of something even deeper, which is alignment with self.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely taken on layers and layers of meaning as I've grown up.
Yeah.
Like this idea of what it really means to me, why it is instilled in me. And I will say, even after saying that, like, I don't really know where it came from, but I also do. I often joke, and it's not a joke, but I often joke that my family's love language is guilt tripping.
Oof.
Right.
That,
and so,
honey.
right. So, and that I think is where it really started coming up for me is this idea of like, I'm not going to regret that.
Yes. Wow. What a powerful rebellion for you. Like truly.
That's basically my middle name, Emily Powerful Rebellion Thompson.
Did you forget your last name?
No, I just needed a dramatic pause there.
Got it. I was like, it's Thompson.
No. It needed space. It needed space.
Amazing. Oh my God. Also, I want to touch back on something you said because I'm preaching a lot about capitalism right now. And man, I swear I'm not preachy. Okay. I just preach a lot.
Yes. I get the distinction.
I'm not bossy. I'm a boss. You know what I mean? I'm like, but I am an anti-capitalism capitalist. And basically there's something you said, which is that there's a lot of people who aren't aligned with themselves and their values, who are doing just fine. They're doing just fine under the old capitalistic systems that reward profit over all else. We are, hopefully, and I really feel this, moving into a very new era for humanity and for our society. And I think we are moving into the next economy, as it's literally called. Google it. It's really fascinating. And the next economy is built with companies that value humankind over all else. I'm talking about like humans over profit. And that's how I run my business, is like, I spend most of my time making sure my people feel cared for, making sure my people have everything that they need in this world. And then what I believe is from that comes profit and not the other way around. So, you know, that's the old systems. And the old systems also rewarded sociopaths and narcissists and people who just didn't care. It rewarded individualism above empathy. The new way as we very violently enter the age of Aquarius.
Kicking and screaming, as it were.
Shoot. I did like when we were wearing flower crowns going, this is the dawning of the age of Aquarius. Right. I was like, where's the flower crowns? There's Corona crowns, not flower crowns.
Right? Oh.
Listen, new age hippies look like this.
Yeah. Right. They're sitting at home. Do you have PJ pants on down there?
Nope. I actually have jeans on for you
real
guys.
Pants.
For you guys, jeans.
Nice. Real pants. We call those real pants. Or hard pants. That's
hard pants.
Right. A term we've coined around here. Hard pants. No, I think, and I even want to talk about like how this works. Because even you saying it is like, oh, is it like, but let's all think about this right now, because what we're all doing is we're all sitting at home, spending less money than we usually do because we can't go out and, have margaritas. May they rest in peace.
Speak for yourself. I'm in Atlanta where things are open.
Oh, true that. But you are being so much more thoughtful about where you're spending your money, right? You're thinking, instead of buying this like freezer margarita mix from the Walgreens, like let me go down to my like local Mexican restaurant and get a jug of like real margarita. Are you guys not doing that?
No, why have I not done this yet? You're saying this and I'm like, wait. I'm over here
Cinco
just
de
like
Mayo.
Drinking gin and juice. Like
No.
Then.
Let me tell you about this, and then we'll get back to the actual thing. Cinco de Mayo, I sent David. I was like, 2 months into quarantine at that point. I was like, I don't care what cootie you get. Go get me some margaritas and some cheese dip. Like, again, guys, I was joking a minute ago. Like, basic, so basic, it's fine. And so he went and he was like, how many margaritas do you want? And I was like, 2. I want, you can have a margarita. I can have a margarita. I was like, if you can only get one, that's fine. We'll share it, but get 2. Because who knows? Like you can drive with booze. That's the thing. How many can you get? All of them? So he came back and I was sitting right where I'm sitting now. I was sitting here working and he came in and was like, they only let me get 1. I was like, are you kidding me? 2 months into quarantine, I thought that, the world was over. I can only get 1 margarita. And I walk out there and he holds it up and it's a gallon milk jug full of margarita. It was the best day of my life.
Listen, if Latinos don't know how to do anything else, we know how to turn up and turn up in style. Okay? All right?
Yes.
I may not survive the apocalypse past a few days, but sí es cierto. I may not survive the apocalypse past a few days, but those will be the most fun days of my life. I'm going to be turned the whole time. Y'all are going to be fighting for your life. I'm going to be like, let the zombies eat me. They're going to get drunk.
You're going to be gathering up everyone's milk jugs.
I'm going to recycle them, guys.
Oh, man. Okay. Well, there was like a real story here. So, okay. Actually, though, we were very particular about even the Mexican restaurant that we went to go get our margaritas and cheese dip from. There is like one family that runs one margarita and it's like the furthest one away.
That's amazing.
But that's the one that we went to.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And I know I'm not the only person doing this. We're all being so much more thoughtful about where we're putting our money, that what is going to happen is that the ones of us who are left behind are the ones of us who are serving people in a way that feels like they want to return the favor. Even when times are hard, even when they're making they're only buying one thing this month or whatever it may be, they're going to think about those people who are real, who are authentic, who are sharing a story a real story worth sharing. What is the story of Walmart, and can we all relate to it?
No,
Probably
and listen, that's why business values, like businesses and the values they've put out historically have seemed like such a load of BS, is because it's not authentic. Now, our values for frequency, when we set them, they're part of our story. And every value, right now, I'm actually redoing our values. I'm looking at where are we now after just over a year and a half of pretty substantial growth for us. Actually, in a few days from when we've recorded this. So, okay, let me restate that. Actually, a month and a half ago was 2 years since I registered the business. So July 23rd is when I registered the business in 2018. And we started business a few months after that. So we're like verging on our 2-year anniversary. And a lot has happened in that time. And so we as a team are constantly talking about our values, constantly, just organically, like, oh, this is why clarity, this is why alignment, like just everybody on the team. And they're so living and breathing for us as if as a unit, that's what a corporation is, a group of people whose energy combines to create this very special other energy. A corporation is not a person. It's not a tangible anything. It is the energy created by the hard work, desire, and purpose, ideally, of a group of people working toward the same mission or purpose. And so, that said, looking at our values and being like, okay, how has our story evolved? Let's take a step back. Let's see what the story has evolved. Let's see what that new story is and allow it space to actually live and breathe, and then translate that into new values as needed. But it's also like as you're building a business, whether it's a solopreneurship or a retail store or an e-commerce or a service-based business like mine, you got to keep your finger on the pulse of the story, because once you build this thing based on your own story, it takes on its own life. And there is this interesting collaboration between you and the business. And it's sort of like on you to guide that business, but also on you to listen as that business takes on its own story and life. And if you don't like where that story is going, change the direction. You have that power and that control.
Absolutely. So you were saying, where are you at in the redefine, like you're writing the story, you haven't defined the values yet, correct?
I have not. And I know that Sagela, who is my amazing PR and communications director, has been pressing me to do this. And we're in the middle, first of all, of a rebrand. So by the time this episode is out, y'all can go to frequency.media and you can see the rebrand. And it has been a total exercise in story. And it has really pushed me. It's been uncomfortable in a lot of ways, because I'm like, oh my God, now we're a bigger team. And so everybody's asking me questions all the time. Like, okay, but who are we targeting, and who are we speaking to, and what are we saying about it, and how do we say it, and who do we, and it's such a heavy mental exercise to take on in the midst of a mentally taxing and exhausting time. And yet there is no better time to engage in this exercise, because we don't know where we're all going. So the best thing you can do is know exactly who you are, is know exactly what your story is. Because that way you can respond to complete uncertainty in a state of absolute confidence that the way that you're responding agilely, flowing with whatever comes, is aligned with who you know yourself to be or what you know your business to be.
Yeah. And it's something that you'll never regret.
Yeah. No, but truly, for real.
Right. So because you haven't done your values yet, I wonder if they'll actually change. Mm-hmm. And I wonder if instead the way you define them will change.
100%. Why do you say that?
Right. It's something that I've been thinking about a lot lately. It actually is like a little nugget that came up for me earlier this month as of recording this. So early in July, I did a CEO Day live. We did our CEO Day kit. We did it live. I did it free for anyone who wanted to join. It was a ton of fun. And one of the things that came up during that, it's kind of a story. The story is, Kathleen and I wrote in our book that we thought that your values were something that you were born with and that they never changed. Like there's just like, It's like a part of your character that is so ingrained in you that it just is what it is. And then last summer, back when we could travel, say it with a little bit of anger, disdain. I was sitting in Greece on this trip, and this woman next to me, we were talking. She was a life coach, right? I know everyone just gets like sad face. Remember those days when we could go to the beach?
I mean, I guess.
Right? So she was an older woman, a life coach. We had been having conversations for days. She was totally delightful. And she's talking to me about values. And she tells me that, she helps coach people through, their values changing. And I was like, what?
Wow.
Values change? And I thought like, okay, because this woman is 20, 30 years older than me, perhaps. Maybe she just knows more than I do.
Mm-hmm.
So I really started like shifting my own idea about what values are, even though like I wrote it in a book that's published lots and lots of, or has many copies in print. So I started feeling really weird about it. And then we actually had something come through our inbox a couple of months ago, and as someone who asked the question, if you would change anything in the Being Boss book, what would it be?
Wow.
And so I answered the question on one of our 10 Minutes to Being Boss episodes where I said, I think I would change my stance on values. Maybe they are something that you can actually change as you get older. And but I'll tell you, that's never sat well with me. Like my intuition has never actually accepted that definition. And I'm also talking here, but there is a difference between personal values and business values. Business values can change all day, every day. I mean, look at Walmart. Right? So, but during our CEO Day Live, one of the things that came up for me as I was talking in front of hundreds of people, I just had this moment of clarity around values where I don't think it is your values that change. I think the way you define them simply changes in every phase of your life. And I think what we're all experiencing right now is a change in values, or a change in definition of values, where we're all having to define those core characteristics in a completely different way. And I think it has, even if we can bring it home a little bit, it's shifted the way we're sharing our stories. It shifted our confidence in our ability to share our stories, because we're a little now misaligned with the things that we've always identified with, because the definitions of those identities is now even maybe just a hair different, and in some ways a lot different, that has us all feeling a little weird about showing up and selling what it is that we're doing, right? And owning who we are now and what our opinions are, or what they have been and that they need to change.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So this long story.
No, but that's fascinating. Yeah.
I think maybe I would love for you to follow up with me as you are looking at your values. Do they actually change, or do you simply redefine them?
Well, I think that those might be one and the same. And I guess it depends on how vastly you redefine them, because I think it's a great example. That was fascinating. Oh my God, Emily. That's because I'm in the middle of this exercise. So I've already been reevaluating them. I've been looking at each of our 6 values and being like, okay, I'm not going to have we're not going to have a list of 15 values. That's ridiculous. We really need to think about if there are 6 or less things that we stand for, what are they? And, we care tremendously about all 6 values that we currently have. I'll tell you what, there really are 2 that I've looked at that I'm like, well, those are truly an embodiment of our team. And one of them is authenticity. And it just keeps coming up. And to me, that's a crux of, the movement or mission to heal, enlighten, or uplift through sound. And the second is playfulness/passion, something along those lines, because we really play so much. We have so much fun doing what we do, but I don't know if that's this fundamental thing, whoa, we have so much fun. Trust us. See, it's a value. I don't know. But I do think that in redefining significantly, let's say, formally somebody white, one of their values, white American, one of their values is community. But the way that they define community is their tight-knit white community, white-dominated community. And they want to make sure that they protect their community at all costs. And when somebody during this nationwide reckoning with race that we're having, finally, in what feels like a critical mass moment, tells them, well, part of your community is also just like humanity. Don't you think that like there is a human community? And what about the Black people in your community? And what about the Black people that you consider not a part of your community because they're on the other side of your neighborhood or gate or whatever? I have seen people starting to completely switch what they consider to be community or family or whatever it is. To me, that's a fundamental shift in values. That's a shift away from subconsciously racist values and a racist framing of values, or a selfish one, you know, if you don't want to use such a harsh term, which I think we all need to like confront. So I think as a nation, we are in a moment of shifting values, and the redefining of those values innately means that they're completely different values. Even if diversity is the same word, the way you redefine that in this current age versus 40 years ago, it's a totally different value system.
Yeah.
So I think it's both. I think it's both. Because I also listen, I was born with a certain set of values personally that I continue to hold today without choosing it. Like injustice gives me, and actually I mean this for real this week, gives me hives. And I literally 2 days ago started breaking out in hives because I got this like, all these little situations that felt so unjust. And I'm a person who doesn't handle injustice well. It makes me so angry that I can't do anything about it. And it's injustice on a broad scale. It's injustice on a small scale with like ridiculous policies in our government. It's all sorts of stuff, you know?
Yeah. I just had a thought. What if the purpose of life
okay, I'm here.
is to find the truest definition of your values?
Wow.
Like the truest and most complete definition of your values. So someone who does value community, like the purpose of their life is to actually fully embrace the truest and most complete definition of community.
I am super down for that.
Same.
Super down for that.
Same.
I'm going to have to journal about that because for real, let me sink into that. I need to process that for a few days / weeks. That's a really interesting thought. And there is something, you know, to bring this back to owning your story. I think that there is I love the exercise, Kelly, and your exercise of like understanding how intuition feels in the body, but then also really thinking about your whole life as an individual and being like, what are those, oh God, I'm trying to say an American saying right now.
It's okay. I always suck at these. It's fine.
What are the hills I tend to always die on? Is that a thing?
Oh,
it always sounds so aggressive to me.
Sure. Yes, that's right.
You know, those things that you can't let go of, that really, really a hill you want to die on. Yes. Thank you so much. Ooh, I'm so glad I have people who can swoop in those moments.
Jill is actually always really great at filling in my blanks. She's like it's great. Thank you, Jill.
Bless. Bless. Okay, so what are those things, those values? Like maybe Jill's value is to rescue people when they are in need of help in a moment, right? Maybe one of Jill's things is like she cannot see somebody struggling and not try to help them out of that situation, right?
I believe it.
And you know? And so I think that knowing that about yourself also helps you to tell your story, because that helps to connect the dots between why are you even doing what you're doing? You know, there's gotta be a part of you that's like, I mean, look at me. I mean, injustice is one of those things. Love and trying the constant relationship with expressing love, but also needing love expressed back to me. All of those things tie into my business. Like they do. This mission to heal, enlighten, and uplift. Heal, enlighten, uplift, injustice, love,
Yeah.
You know, the second all this happened, I was like, you know what? I'm not going to be a Trojan horse anymore. That's not my value. My value is to be as big as I am. So I came out blatantly against white supremacy, against racism, like shouted it from the rooftops, and then also am like blatantly an anti-capitalist now rather than being what I used to call myself, which was, are you ready? The Trojan horse of patriarchal capitalism. Like, no. No more Trojan horse. I don't like knock on the door gently anymore. I kick it down.
Yeah, right. Living more authentically, owning who you are, like showing up and embracing your values to the fullest extent that you possibly can.
Be as big as you are.
Yeah. And so this like purpose of life thing, I also think this rolls into like the purpose of your business, right?
Yes.
Is it not also to uphold, to like find the truest, complete, and I would even say universal definition of your values and embody them 100% all of the time. Right? That is what we're here to do.
Super power. And yes. I mean, I don't, universal is an interesting word for me because I think that there's so much gray area. And also, you know, in quantum physics, there's this theory that like everything that ever will happen, ever has happened, and is happening now is all happening at the same exact time. And, you know, that is like, what? What do you mean? And I will tell you, during COVID is the first time that I'm like getting an inkling with my tiny human brain of what that could possibly mean, because everything does feel like it's all happening at the same time. And it feels like this is the worst, best, most horrible, loneliest, most fulfilled, most loved, most joyous, most opportunity, least opportunity, scariest and terrible, and blah, 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 time all at once. And so universal is a hard word for me right now. In conclusion.
We just take that one off the docket for the moment. It's just a little too big.
This is what it looks like when a Virgo is having a meltdown, an existential meltdown. Is there even any definition to anything?
I love it. We're talking. Also, I did not know that we were going to come in here talking about the meaning of life and quantum physics today. But
that's just what we do.
Sometimes that's just what happens. Well,
sometimes that's your purpose.
Right? Maybe. To make you understand the word universal. Right?
She said universal. I was like, well, according to quantum physics.
Oh, man. I appreciate you. a ton. Perfect. I do want to start wrapping this up. This time just went so fast. Quantum physics. So fast.
It's not even real.
Right? It's all happening at the same time.
Nothing and everything exists.
Anywho, I have not seen any questions pop up here. So let's go ahead and start wrapping this up. I would like to know, do you have any tools or tactics or tips or like maybe like a good journaling prompt that anyone who may be struggling with identifying themselves or owning who they are can use to start, I don't know, digging in?
I do. So like before I started Frequency, I had Creative Powerhouse, which was a marketing agency. And we did that a lot for our clients, was actually finding and culling their story so that we could then write it into a bio, write it into a white paper, write it into web copy. And one of my favorite exercises is a journaling exercise, and it's very much dependent on your stream of consciousness, your ability to allow yourself that stream of consciousness. And it is basically, you just want to write a list of 3 lists. The first list is everything that you are really, really good at, like very skilled at. The second list is everything that makes you super happy, like very joyous. Think of like Marie Kondo for your soul, all that. And then third list is every way that you have made money and know that you can make money. And when you Venn diagram those and sort of start connecting the dots between them is when you start realizing what your purpose is and what you should be doing for your purpose. You can also do this for your story, right? Is like write down some of the key milestones that have happened for you personally in your life, good, bad, ugly, great. do that for your career, and then you can do it as a business owner or some other category that you set for yourself, because I have all three of those, right? I have a career, but I also have my time and life as a business owner and CEO, which is very different from a corporate career, and then my personal life. And what you're able to do is spot themes. You're able to start connecting. Like, you can draw literal lines. If you're doing 3 columns next to each other, you can draw literal lines for different things that connect to one another. So an example of that might be, for me, like when I was younger, when I was a child, I was in theater, and I was in musical theater, and I was a singer. And that line would connect to the middle column, where in my career, my first job was at Interscope Records with A&R. So all of a sudden, that line connects from singing and musical theater to the music industry. And then all of a sudden, that line would connect to the fact that I have a podcast production company. Or if I was trying to get to frequency, it would connect to the fact that I have a podcast. And all of a sudden, I'm starting to make these connections that I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Sound has been a part of my life intensely since I was born, basically, right? So that's my advice for an exercise.
That is a powerful exercise, it sounds. I'm going to go do it. Can I go do it?
Yeah.
Just see what comes up.
So sorry.
Right? Not for you. Not for you.
Of course. Be as big as you are.
Love it. Thank you so much. Where can our people find more about you?
So me and everything about me is Frequency. So you can look up Frequency, which is FRQNCY. It's the millennial spelling. No vowels for us. Thanks. FRQNCY.media. And then we're Frequency Media on Insta. And then you can also just request to follow me on Insta too. I'm posting on Insta and Facebook a good bit. So you can find me through my name.
Nice.
And say hello.
Yes. And you can find all of those links in our show notes. And finally, what makes you feel most boss?
I've thought about this question too. And any given day, it's different. What makes me feel most boss is being able to find joy in every single day. Yeah, that's incredibly important to me. None of it, no matter of revenue, no amount of profit is worth it or means anything if I'm not feeling joy in it. So yeah, that to me, feeling joy with my team makes me feel successful as a leader. Seeing my team feel joy within themselves makes me feel successful. Seeing the joy coming from my clients when they have a podcast they never thought in a million years they could have makes me feel really successful. And lighting up when I talk about Frequency and Cultured, my podcast, makes me feel really successessful.
Thank you for sharing all of that. And thank you for coming to hang out with us. I had a blast talking about all of this with you.
As always, this has been awesome.
Right?
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. So, everyone who's here, podcast done, right? Thank you guys
Thanks, y'all.
for coming to hang out with us. I'll see you guys around the community. Michelle, this has been fab. Always so good to hang out. Let's connect. Can we just chat again soon? All the time.
You can't escape me, you know that.
True that. And guys, we actually do have some fun stuff coming up with Michelle. I'm not going to share with you now. I'm going to trickle out some details as we go. But this is not the last you'll hear from Michelle. Ooh, did you love this episode as much as I did? Imagine sitting in on conversations like this live, either every Monday with your fellow bosses where you can talk about what's coming up for you in your business, or in a monthly Clubhouse conversation where I go live with a boss to have a real conversation about doing business as a creative, just like this conversation with Michelle, attended by a group of business owners like you. In the Being Boss community, you can decide how involved you want to be, from just connecting with others in the baseline community to having access to extra content like this live recording and more in the Clubhouse. Learn more and join in on the fun at beingboss.club/community. And until next time, do the work, be boss.
Yeah.